What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be doing a react to this video from Days and Words titled The 1 Hour Language Routine to Get Fluent in 14 Months. Now this has to be a clickbait title. In fact, if you do the math, which I'm not going to do because math is math and I'll just get my Discord to do it, that is 420 hours! So let's hope this is a clickbait title. Now, I've actually watched Days and Words channel on and off over the years. In fact, I think I started watching him way back in the day when I was an Esperanto-only YouTuber, and I've seen him comment on my channel. In fact, our last interaction was in the comment section on my channel, and he was just asking if I'm located in Sydney. I am, my man, which means I can find you. No, if you want to meet up, reach out to me via Gmail, but I'm going to make one comment, okay, guys? There's one downside to being a YouTuber, which I think most of you have never thought about. Obviously, it's not, the fame and glory and the endless amounts of money that's showered down upon us, which it's not happening yet. But we'll get there. We'll get there, boys. We'll do this as a community. We'll grind to the fame, fortune, and money. But there is another downside. And that downside is, if you've been on YouTube long enough, grinding away unsuccessfully over the years, uploading multiple videos, freaking a video every day, you can literally see yourself age. And if you look back at my videos, I can literally see my points in my life where I went as I gained weight, lost weight, aged, my hairline receded, the whole goddamn works. And I just got one comment looking at this beautiful image in front of me. My man, Days and Words, life has not been kind to us. I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to pick on you, but I remember when you were a younger man and I was a younger man. Life has not been kind. Let's continue.
A day language learning routine that will make you fluent in a language.
Jesus Christ. Okay, what do we got? So we're going to go 35-minute listen, 15-minute read, 10-minute words. 50 minutes listen, 10 minutes. This is too hard. No, this is too hard. This is okay. This looks like over an hour of planning right here. What is this? No. Okay.
In 14 months. Now, you've probably tried to learn a language before and basically failed. Whether you quit after a month or two, or you're still going after 5 years, but you don't really feel like you can produce the language.
There's one way to not fail, okay? Guaranteed you'll never fail, is if you never give up. Sunk cost fallacy!
Confidently, when you come across people who definitely are fluent in their second or third or fourth language, you might feel like a failure and that you're just not a language learning person. But here's the thing. You are a language person because...
You know what's even worse, okay? Being fluent in Esperanto and having people come into the comment section and saying, this guy doesn't even speak any languages. I'm like, bro, I speak Esperanto. And they're like, oh, that's just some fucking cipher. Like pig Latin. I'm like, motherfucker, I'm gonna stab you. You wanna fucking go? I'll cipher you.
Humans are linguistic creatures. We all have the ability to intuitively recognize patterns and recreate those patterns.
Okay, let's not overestimate every human's abilities, okay? Like, I'm pretty sure there's some people that don't very intuitively do that.
In short, we all have the ability to learn a language. So the question then...
I guess.
And becomes, why are other people successful in learning a foreign language if you aren't? And here's...
I don't know why. Okay, I have scatterbrain effect. So he's talking about this... And then what happens is my brain jumps to something I'm thinking about. And then it jumps to something else. And the next thing I know, I'm thinking about something totally different to what he's talking about. And I just have to get it off my mind. So this, for whatever reason, started making me think about the experiment that happened in ancient Egypt. Okay, so there was an experiment where I think a pharaoh, he wanted to know what was the universal language, the language of the gods, okay? So basically there was a belief or something that when you're born, your language is corrupted and changed or something, basically overwritten with whatever language you're learning. So they believe that, when a baby's born, they actually understand the universal godly language. So what they did is they took a baby, gave it to a farmer, and said, you, don't let any human ever talk to this baby. And then they put it basically in, I think, like a stable with some animals or something so that no humans would ever interact because they wanted to hear the godly language. And I think from memory, that baby just ended up making goat sounds. So, don't know why I'm thinking about that.
The simple truth of it. The people who are successful in learning to speak a foreign language are not doing the same things as you. So in as brief a manner
Okay. Okay, this is getting awkward. Hopefully they're doing what I'm doing.
as possible, I'm going to explain what it is that successful language learners do. And if you do this for an hour a day for 14 months, you can have success in a language that you're currently trying to learn beyond what you ever thought was possible.
Okay, so now we get past the clickbait title, and now we're getting down to, 14 months, you will be successful if you do this at whatever you're trying to do. Ah, man, that's not what I wanted. I wanted a 1 hour language routine to get fluent in 14 months. That's what I wanted. Not this, you might get successful at what you're doing. But what is this freaking demotivational shit? Give me back that fluency. I want this. I want that.
A lot of people don't believe that there is a more efficient way of learning a language because they've tried a lot of different things and all of those things were equally useless, so they get the impression that nothing really works. But think about it. If there are things that work and you cut out the trial and error process and go directly to the things that work, then obviously you're going to learn a language more efficiently. It's like this. Unsuccessful language learners think about language learning completely backwards. They don't just put the horse before the cart, they remove the horse entirely from the equation, unwittingly of course, and then wonder why the cart feels so heavy to push. There are two things that most people have completely backwards in their mind, and once you understand what those things are and how they actually work in completely the opposite way, then you're ready to learn a language properly. If you're going to do this, it will be greatly helpful to have something like a set of short stories or a set of short chapters with all the vocabulary and grammar organized neatly for you.
I don't know why, but as he's talking about this, I know this is not his intention, but as he's talking about this, I just start imagining Ollie popping up in the background, Ollie Richardson going, you just gotta get my short stories or whatever, the story time learning or whatever. Like, I've just imagined Ollie just popping out of the corner and going, story time learning, everyone.
Which is exactly what's contained within the story learning courses, which are currently...
Bro, I walked right into that. I walked fucking headfirst into that.
1/3, yes, 1/3 of their normal price, but only for about a day longer because I was super late making this video.
Okay. Let me scroll down. The first 2 days after this video goes, you could store it. Why? Oh my... you've been in this space too long when you just... You're completing the advertisements for them. I got nothing wrong with, YouTubers selling advertisements and stuff. You gotta make money, okay? You gotta make money. Perfectly fine. It's just funny as hell that I just predicted that unintentionally.
So just check the link in the description and it will tell you if that sale is still going. The story learning courses are perfect for the kind of thing that I'm talking about in this video, and they're currently less than $100 each rather than nearly $300 each.
I will say something about story learning courses. I've never bought them, got them, anything like that, but I do have a friend who got the German one, okay? Now, this was in the book form. I don't know if it's been updated since then. He's had this for many, many years, and it was riddled with errors. Now, I do not know if those errors have been corrected since, okay? I'm just saying that at least many years ago, it had lots of errors. And if you have got story learning, let me know down in the comments section what your experiences have been with it. Person who writes the best review will probably get pinned.
And look, I'll be perfectly honest, for $300, they're okay. Like, you could do worse than spend $300 on them, but for $100, yeah, they're pretty good. I think they're definitely worth that. So like I said, there isn't much time left because I was so late with this video, so you might want to pick one up while you still can, especially if you're going to follow the process that I lay out in this video. That link is in the description. Now,
I'm actually curious, what languages does it even cover? Okay. That's a lot of reviews. Where's the languages? Get $200 off of all story learning courses. Trusted. 100,000. Okay. Sorry, this offer is now... Oh. Sorry, man. I should have reacted to this one earlier. Okay, let's go. If this link doesn't work, go to this one. Well, this is really poorly designed. Choose your language. I say this is poorly designed because, like... Yeah. Is this working? Is this working? Is this gonna work? I guess it won't even let me choose the language. Okay. Ollie, if you're seeing this video, my man, what you gotta do is you gotta let me go here, even though the offer's expired, and still show me what's available, because you might sell me post the effect.
Here are the two things that you probably have backwards in your mind. 1. Languages are produced subconsciously, not consciously. That is to say, when you speak a language fluently, you are not consciously choosing the words and structures that come out of your mouth. Just like you're not consciously breathing, but it still happens. When you walk, you're not consciously balancing. And speaking is much like breathing and walking. If you can only do it with conscious thought, with deliberateness, then you're not really doing it. 2. Comprehending the language is the key.
Okay, so when I talk about this, I always talk about automation. So you got to get to the point where it's automated. And the way to do that is literally just practice. It's like with any skill. So when you first learn a skill, generally what will happen is you have to consciously think about performing said skill, okay? But if you perform said skill enough times, eventually it just becomes automatic. We've all experienced this. This is not even a language-specific thing. This is just in general, okay? And the more you perform it, the more automated it gets, and the more complex the skill, the more you perform those additional actions, eventually you're able to just perform multiple actions at once, which is basically what language, using a language is. So I like to talk about automation.
To unlock speaking. I've just said that language is produced subconsciously. That means if you can't subconsciously perfectly understand something that is said to you, then you certainly won't be able to produce that effortlessly either. In short, you cannot confidently say what you don't fully and perfectly understand. So this means that first, you're going to want...
Okay, so let me process that. Basically, he's saying, unless you're able to consciously form that sentence, like if you intended to, you wouldn't be able to unconsciously form that. I think that's the gist of what he's getting at. How does that work? Like, I understand what he's saying, but I'm also thinking about the fact that, there's times where I will generate a sentence which is correct, and then afterwards I will second guess myself about that sentence. And then if I go check that, I'll actually find I did produce it correctly. But I'm not sure if that falls in line with what he's mentioning here, or if that's like a completely separate process that's going on in my head.
To learn to comprehend. As you learn to comprehend more and more, you'll learn to comprehend more and more subconsciously. Now, this might sound like it would take a very long time, but when all your effort is dedicated to that subconscious comprehension, you can pick it up much faster than you think. In order to learn to comprehend, you're going to listen a lot and study the words and phrases that come from the material that you're listening to. I recommend, if at all possible, to make your learning faster, finding things that have transcripts. For this reason, my go-to is audiobooks. They have perfect written equivalents already because they are literally just books read out loud. Audio means you can hear it, and book means book.
Obviously, this only works with languages that have alphabets that are easy to learn. Not Chinese.
I also recommend repeated listening to the same things, and this is something that I repeat on many videos on my channel. I repeat myself about repeated listening because repeated listening is where it's at. It's much easier to understand something deeply and then subconsciously if you know not only what they're talking about now, but what was just said and what they're about to say. And when it comes to audiobooks, you can give yourself a real head start by starting with a translation of a book that you've already read or listened to in your language.
I agree with that. That's definitely a good idea. It's something I always do.
Also recommend things that are interesting to you. YouTube videos that are funny or tutorials on a topic that you already know something about or that you're very interested in are always good. If you take something like 3 short chapters of an audiobook or a short podcast and 2 short YouTube videos, that should total about 50 minutes. In 1 month, you can listen to all of those 30 times and have 5 hours left over to target vocabulary and phrases to learn. But even after that 1 month, you won't understand all of it. And that's okay. We have 13 months left. Now you're going to choose new material and do the same thing again for the second month. And
so this basically falls in line with like what he did with the Spanish challenge where he watched, what was it, that like Spider-Man 50 times or something, okay? And it's what I talk about, you know, in the grind videos and stuff. It's where you pick a small piece of material, you break it down, you work your way through it, you practice it, so there's at least one thing you could watch or listen to and understand fully, or at least as close to full as possible. And it gives you a sense of achievement. Because, well, there's this one thing you can listen to in the language, you understand it. And that makes a big difference. And then what I often talk about is, you know, pick something that's then adjacent to that and dive into it. And then you get cross-pollination of the words that you've learnt and all that type of stuff.
The next month and the next month. And sometime between the 2nd and the 5th month, you should hit a rocket of comprehension, which is exactly what it sounds like. You will just suddenly understand a lot more than you were understanding before. And if then you go back to that first month or the second month and listen to that stuff again, you'll understand it almost perfectly. Now, I said 1 hour a day for 14 months, which is in total 430 hours. And if you spend that efficiently, you will understand and be able to produce quite a lot of the language. But hopefully you find this to be so much more powerful than anything you've done before that you'll just want to do more because it's so effective. If that is the case, do more. If you're enjoying it, you won't burn out by just doing 2 hours a day. If you do 2 hours and 10 minutes a day for the full 14 months, you'll pass 900 hours in total in that time. And
one thing I will say about this is, okay, where we're at the 6-minute mark. I just want to jump back to this, okay? So, this is obviously his way of doing things. So, he lays it out in the calendar. To me, I would fucking personally hate this. Because I kind of enjoy waking up and not knowing so much what I'm going to work on that day. It's kind of like in the moment I work on whatever I feel like working on. So maybe it's like practicing my speaking with a video game, or it's just watching content. It's that, you know, freedom of being able to choose that I enjoy. Now, I understand for some people they love structure. But for me, this is evil. I'd hate to be on like this day and be like, oh God, I got to do 50 minutes listening and 10 minutes reading tomorrow, but I'm really not going to be in the mood for that type of thing. So like, obviously, tailor these types of things to, you know, your personality.
Will not be able to produce the language effortlessly and subconsciously. Not going to happen. But I digress. Let's skip forward to the end of 9 months. Now it sounds late in the process, but remember you've still got 5 months or 153 hours to go. 150 hours is plenty of time to turn the subconscious automatic comprehension of the language that you should now have quite robustly into subconscious automatic production, which is what really speaking a language is. A language that you can speak only by first thinking through the vocabulary and the grammar that you need before you can say anything, that isn't a language that you can speak fluently. So
now, this is true. Everything he's saying is perfectly valid and true, but you're not getting fluent in that time. Let's just be honest, okay? Learning a language is a math game. When you reach efficiency, it then becomes a math game. It's just time spent with the language doing, you know, effective methods. And there's no method that will, in that amount of hours, get you to fluency. Now, you could get to a pretty good, you know, beginner level, upper beginner, maybe even intermediate in a very, very closely related language. But just be realistic about your expectations.
Now you're going to find sentences from all the videos and the stuff that you've been listening to and reading, or new material if you like, and you're going to choose 8 sentences a day. You're going to repeat those sentences as best you can in the exact same way that the native speaker from the material that you took them from said them. Focus most on the pronunciation and the accent. Don't just try to say the sentences. Try to perform them like you're doing an impression, and repeat each sentence 20 times, which should take about 4 minutes per sentence.
One thing I want to point out is something that I never really thought about with Chinese until like later on. And I think this is something you might want to think about, okay? Especially when you're kind of excited and at the beginning of your journey of learning a language. I actually speak a little bit about this with Spanish, but find what accent you like. Now, this might sound kind of stupid, okay? But a lot of how you speak will be cemented in a lot of ways based on whatever material you use at the very beginning. So when I first started learning Chinese, I just used Pimsleur because that's what I just found. Okay, I wasn't that great at choosing material for Chinese at that time. And therefore, a lot of my early spoken accent and a lot of the words I use is very Pimsleur-ish. It's very Beijing accent. However, over time, it's changed a little bit, and I've absorbed structures and ways of speaking that's not really used in the Beijing area, and I've dropped a lot of the R sounds. However, still, a lot of the way I speak is formulated around that original accent that I just unintentionally chose. So have some fun with it at the beginning. Go look up accents in the language. Find something that just sounds kind of cool to you. And you may change your mind as you transfer, as you go down the process of learning the language and you actually start to understand the language. You may think, oh, originally I thought this sounded cool, but I prefer this over here. And I kind of had this experience myself with Spanish. So when I started out, I watched a lot of stuff from Mexico. And I think that was just kind of unintentional. I just kind of that was just the content I chose. However, as I progressed, I started to realize I really like the Argentinian accent. And I'm not a fan of the Mexican accent at all. I kind of feel like it's kind of I don't even know how to describe it. Maybe high-pitched, really fast-paced in some different ways. While the Argentinian accent's kind of relaxed, chill, and it's just kind of got its own thing going with the SH type of sound. There's something that I like about it. And therefore, when I do start speaking and I start when I start formulating those sentences, I'm going to be formulating them based on, Argentinian. That's what I've been focusing on. So yeah, just do a little bit of exploration with the accent. That's all I'm trying to say.
Means spending about 30 minutes a day doing this, which will be very hard, I'm not going to lie, but your production in the language will skyrocket. You're practicing turning words and grammar that you already understand into movements that your mouth makes. For the other 30 minutes, you'll continue to listen to the language, but now to more varied material because you will understand so much of what you hear anyway. After 1 month of doing this, you'll double the number of sentences that you practice, but you'll halve the number of reps to 10. That means by the end of this month, which is the 11th month, you'll then have practiced saying 730 sentences.
I'm going to be honest, I've completely lost in the math here about, how things are being split up and stuff like that. This is too complex for me. Way too complex for me. One thing I will point out, on top of, what I've said already, is I feel like this is more for someone who's already at an advanced beginner stage wanting to move into an intermediate level, because that's obviously where you're going to get most of the content in audiobook form that you can kind of, possibly work towards. And additionally, you've already learnt the sounds of the language and the basic rhythm type of thing. I don't think you want to be doing this from absolute day one, because obviously you're just going to there's just too many words to learn in just one sentence from an audiobook, and you haven't learnt the sounds of the language yet.
So with 3 months to go, you'll automatically or subconsciously understand a majority of what you hear, depending a little bit on the language, because you'll have developed a robust subconscious model of the language. So now it is time to start putting the meanings that you want to convey into the language. How you start off doing this is a little bit of a preference. You might wish to start by writing, but if you do so, be careful not to overthink it too much. Just get your thoughts onto the page. Personally, I prefer to book a lesson on something like italki, or finding a friend who is a native speaker of that language and speaking to them.
I generally hate humans. I don't like talking to them, which is funny because my hobby is learning languages. So I don't really like going onto italki or stuff. There's been plenty of people who have offered to give me free lessons, but I'm just happy to talk to myself in my room like a psychopath.
In mind that despite what should be a fluency in comprehension of the language and significant speaking practice, turning your own meaning into the language is always a bit clunky in the beginning. However, you still have around 90 hours left to practice this, and ideally I'd break that into 2 30-minute chunks every day and take a break from speaking at all every 3 to 4 days. On those days, I wouldn't even...
Wow, this is complex. This is, look at this, we've got okay, this is hours spent. Is this accumulating? Yes, it is. Okay, so it's accumulated time. Speak, listen, read. Yeah, this is too complex for me. I just track overall hours spent with the language.
Focus particularly hard on listening to the language. I just do a bit more passive listening. Now, I know that's counterintuitive, but I have personally discovered that more advanced, complex, and fluid thoughts are able to be formed in the language more quickly and produced more fluently when I have regular breaks from speaking that language. In the scientific research around developing skills, this is normally called post-practice improvement. And also, ideally, I wouldn't stop the 1 hour a day of listening even on the days that you're doing your 1 hour of speaking. But by now, it's not as if you need to give that listening an hour of your day, because you'll understand it quite well by this point, so you can be doing other things at the same time. And remember, always do more if possible. If you can do 2 hours, do 2. If you can do 3 hours, do 3. The goal is to promote the language as part of your subconscious process. The more that it's in your life, and particularly in the background of your life, the better. So, we come to the end of 14 months, and you'll have done at least 430 hours of genuine language learning, actually properly familiarizing yourself with the language, not pressing buttons on an app, not writing the endings of verbs into conjugation tables, real language learning that uses the real language to do it. And hopefully, if you're spurred on by the results, you'll have done something more like 600, 700, or 900 hours. And although I'll admit that, yes, this is YouTube and the title of this video is a YouTube video title, so I cannot promise you full fluency in the language, because that seems to have a different definition for everyone, and some of the people who are most ready to claim fluency of themselves are the ones who should be the least ready to use that term. So although...
Yeah, that's true. It's good that he put this in here. Should have been at the beginning of the video, because most people drop off around the 30% mark if you look at analytics or videos, but that's their fault, I guess.
All that stuff that I just said, I can promise you that if you really do this, you will know a feeling of familiarity and comprehension in the language that you currently, watching this video, did not think possible. So fluency may be an elastic term, but if you really do this, I think that native speakers of the language you want to learn will probably think that you're much more fluent than you currently believe you can ever get to. That is, they will think you are very fluent, and even if you don't feel fully fluent, you will know the next steps that you need to take to reach that next level.
And it's absolutely terrible when they think you're way better than you are. This happens with Chinese, okay, because I've got a pretty good accent. They will think that I'm like full-on C1 fluent, which I'm not, okay, nowhere near that. And then they'll just start blubbering away in local fucking dialects with freaking random words thrown in that aren't even the goddamn dictionary. And I'll just be standing there blinking like a goddamn idiot. It's fucking, I hate it, man. And then once they realize they don't understand that, then they go down to like fucking baby talk. And I was like, okay, bro, now you're just... Now this is insulting. Can we just like go somewhere around the middle range? You know, just, you know, not too... Add a little bit of flavor in there, but you... Come on.
Chances are that if you watched this far through this video, you are currently in a state of wishing that you could speak that target language, right? Wishing about it. And I'm telling you that you don't need to wish. You can do it if you just put in the hours. Remember, there are good learning resources at a third of their normal price using the link in the description. I hope you got something out of this video, and I wish you the very best of luck. Lo quiero.
Okay, this is what I mean. Remember at the beginning of the video when I said YouTube and life in general has not been kind to us? We have the man in the middle, and then we have the thumbnail. We have the man in the middle, and then the thumbnail. Look at that. Look at that difference. And look, I'm not picking on him, okay? Here is my professional actor photo, okay? Check this out. Okay. We have the man on the screen, and the man in the thumbnail. That... Bruh. Who the fuck is that? It's called sitting. Bruh, look at that. Oh my god. Life has not been kind. Anyway, overall, what are my thoughts on this video? Okay, so I'll just jump back over here so we're focusing on the video. I guess if you're really into a very structured approach to language learning, this will probably work for you. But for someone like me who likes to track the time you've spent with a language, but also just kind of enjoy the journey as I go along, this kind of planning every little aspect of it is... It's kind of asinine in a lot of ways. I used a big word. Asinine. Is that a B2 word? Okay, I just found this random, the Oxford 3000 by the CEFR. Okay, this is from A1 to B2. Look at this. Look at this, the word asinine is not in this list. That means it must be above a B2. Yes! Okay, anyway, yeah, this method probably wouldn't work for me, but I think there's some good advice in here. If you can figure out the numbers, I think maybe just pause it on the screen where he's showing, you know, his breakdown of the table and kind of reverse engineer it from there, because when I was listening, I kind of got lost in the process. But yeah, if you guys have enjoyed the video, let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll see you all in the next video. And if you don't sub to the channel, well then you're fucking asinine now, aren't you? So, grinders, I decided in post to go check the meaning of the word asinine, just, you know, just to be sure about my usage of the word. I thought it meant something you really hate, because like an asinine remark in my brain is just like something that you just could not stand, you didn't like. I didn't know it meant stupid or foolish. Fuck. See, this just proves, okay, it's not always good to learn words from context. Sometimes you should look up their meaning.